Ocean still isn't.
Okay, Strack Road is on, off of Arcadia Road.
Okay.
Okay, it's that old summer bungalow colony.
Oh, okay.
So that's where Strack Road is. So let's start out with Strack Road, since we started. Okay, so on 10 Strack Road, they're applying for site plan approval for a single-family dwelling on 1 acre in the RU zone, and the reason it's here in front of us really is because it has to go to the planning board because it's in the stream corridor and reservoir overlay. So it's probably, the big concern here is the reservoir for the village. And so obviously I think our big concern is that this septic system be adequately sized and double checked and inspected possibly as it's, I always used to inspect it as we were going, but I think Frank will have it inspected whatever way he needs to have it done. And then the second thing is to make sure we have no other, there'd want to be like a deed restriction on this probably, for no kind of auto repairs or anything else like that. Possibly even the amount of chemicals that could be used.
This is 1 acre, is it they're taking it out from a larger parcel?
No, what they're probably doing, if anything, they're probably taking it, smaller parcels and making them bigger.
Oh.
But I think it might be all just one parcel. The way it's reading it, it's all one parcel now. Originally, when they did this subdivision for the bungalow colony,
Yeah.
it was 1/4 acre lots. Yeah.
Can you guys just move the mics closer?
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 Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, testing.
Right, yeah, everybody's on?
We're usually pretty loud.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, yours wasn't on, sorry.
We only need 3 then. Thanks.
Okay, so, any other concerns about?
So I drove past it today. These are pretty much 1 acre lots in there. The applicant seems to be clearing the land right now. They cut some trees, they pulled some stuff. There is a stream or rill, whatever you wanna call it. It's a wetland it goes right diagonally through the property. I think it's easy enough to build around, it just needs to be engineered a little bit. I would just be concerned that water gets pushed properly to the road front, to Strack, and then there are culverts that go underneath the driveways. Strack is a hill going, so if you're coming from Arcadia going up Strack,
Yeah.
it's uphill. So this water comes from the back corner lot, comes through the property, makes its way to the road. I think just that it just needs to be engineered properly. But other than that, this is it's a residential neighborhood, and I can see exactly whether they want to put a house in there.
Yeah. Is it, will that runoff eventually get to the reservoir? or
Yeah.
not?
It'll come down the road and I think go to, it's a long distance there.
Yeah, we come through the backyards, it comes to the front yards, where it hits a culvert, and then there, underneath the driveways, there are these, the pipes. It makes its way down to Arcadia, then down Arcadia Road to eventually, it all hits the reservoir. So again, just because it is in the, was that a watershed overlay?
Yeah, it's a watershed overlay. Yeah.
That they just need to, when they're building, adhere to, and Frank needs to stay on top of that, make sure that it's fenced off, what it's supposed to.
And I think the planning board ought to consider some restrictions on the deed.
So far as chemical use.
Chemical use and that kind of thing, yeah.
Do the rest of the houses in and around the bungalows have that?
We probably never worried about it back then. There aren't a whole bunch of new houses up there.
No, yeah, you're right,
And so I think we haven't had that issue a whole bunch. We did have one a few years ago that was around the other side, where it's gonna be two houses on there, I think. Or no, it was 3. Off the other side, off of,
Would they put 3 lots to make it for 2 houses, or?
yeah, something like that.
this is when they were approved, and
Yeah.
they want 3 small houses.
Yeah.
Yep, that was the one. So that was the first point, we really started getting into restrictions.
Right, well, that's the one where, you can't use any ice on the,
Any
you can't use any salt on the driveway,
yes.
this and that. I'm looking at it saying, I don't see how you're gonna do it. My concern with that piece of property in particular was more the usage, but they say they wanna keep it in the family, et cetera. Not that has anything to do with this property, I agree with you, so far as making sure there's common sense restrictions to chemicals and, just because it is in the overlay.
However, I think the planning board can assume common sense.
So we have to say.
I think we have to try to address the concerns, I think, in deed restrictions or whatever.
Okay.
So is there anything else we want to be worried about?
Nope.
Good. Proper disposal, proper garbage disposal, I think all that kind of stuff. Good. Anything else on Strack Road?
I don't have anything.
Okay. let's go to 17M Flex Building. It's been around for a while. They're coming back, revised site plan. Apparently, they had a turning radius. Unfortunately, those out here give us a turning radius stuff. But I think they're still in front. They still have not gotten a total feedback from the DOT, is my understanding.
Well, at the last meeting, didn't they say that the DOT said that the street warranted a dedicated turning lane westbound,
Mm-hmm.
but since it's a state road, the state has to build it. So the planning board, my understanding was they were allowing this, and then when the state gets around to making that turning lane, they would do it, which, yeah, that kind of leaves the town residents with this, what is a potentially very dangerous intersection. It's already
Making it more dangerous, right?
Right. So to allow the builder to go ahead with the plan without the proper turning lane.
Considering we just had RDM down the road where we talked about having to contribute to it.
Yes.
I would think that this would have some kind of contribution to be made, whatever that contribution is. And maybe the contribution is just giving up some land. Turning lane.
Well, then we can, along that, good segue, because the eastbound lane, a dedicated right turn lane so that trucks could make the right turn. But we still have this issue with the crossover, right? Because when you're coming towards Goshen, from Middletown towards Goshen, and you make the right onto Cannon Hill,
Yeah.
a truck has to cross over into the oncoming traffic on Cannon Hill to make that wide turn. And we've talked about this before and said that, you know, this happens a lot, but I think where you do see it happen, it was a long time ago, and we weren't thinking about these things. Well, now we do think about these things.
And so I think maybe the question, and maybe the DOT thinks they addressed it, is whether or not that turning radius on the Cannon Hill getting out to 17M is adequate for the large trucks. Or whether we need to have that turning radius adjusted.
Well, I mean, at the public hearing, I spoke of it on it. Okay, right here, this is the turn into,
Right.
right? You've got this crossover.
Yes.
You've got to make this crossover. Now, okay, Cannon Hill is not it's not a busy road,
It is when you have the buses going out in the morning.
but at a certain time of day, it's very busy. And certainly Cannon Hill, and this was the problem, when they approved this, and they did, remember that they did away with the one entrance, they were supposed to have two, okay, we'll knock it down to
Mhm.
one. But you still have this problem with the turning radius when you're talking about these trucks.
So I guess the question I would have for the traffic consultant is, isn't there a way the turning radius for this driveway into this building can be made such that the incoming trucks do not have to go into the opposite lane to make that turn?
Well, if you're coming into it, sure.
Sure.
You cut all this out, right? And now you can just make a more shallow
I
turn.
agree, and I'm not sure why that's not being proposed. I think it should be looked at, and I don't know, I would expect our traffic consultant to say, no, it's impossible, or whatever.
This entire building was, I understand that the codes changed out from underneath the applicant. Some things have been changed, but, granted the setbacks and everything else, this truck issue is, you're putting some very big trucks into a very small parking lot. And what happens on Cannon Hill, it's definitely gonna be slow speed, and it's gonna be an inconvenience, and maybe there's traffic back up, there could be a fender bender. But at that speeds, I'm not seeing a huge issue. It's coming out onto 17M that I think is treacherous.
And the truth of the matter is, if I have buses lined up here,
Yep,
I could end up having this traffic
Sure.
back out onto 17M.
yes. Which is why we were talking about a dedicated turning lane coming eastbound, right, which would be in here, but now they're talking, this is gonna be that berm.
Yeah,
Instead, truck gets in here, gets tight, and now makes the turn in, but that's not on the plans either. And this was,
but it might be on the regular plans. It's not on the turning radius analysis, or turning analysis.
How is this situation going to impact the guy that wants to do concrete?
My understanding is the guy, and I'll look at Grace a little bit, the guy who wants to do the concrete, maybe is trying to sell his property.
Oh,
Have you heard anything from, Salamone?
I've not heard of it.
Okay.
Now,
I heard that it's up for sale now.
did Salamone want to be on Cannon Hill Drive, or he's up on?
He's up one.
Yeah, that's Kariki Drive.
Right.
Yeah, but, I mean, his vehicles are even slower coming.
Right, and so I think that, for whatever number of reasons, I think he is looking to sell. I have heard that, somebody's selling to the same customers that he was planning on selling to, or moving up here to serve.
So,
Maybe taking over, Texas old concrete business.
yeah, okay, so, I mean,
Well, but again, if he's gonna be up on Kariki,
Yeah.
there's no access to Kariki
No,
from Cannon
there
Hill.
is no. So we're still back to, I think we're still back to asking the question of our traffic consultant, whether or not modifications to the entrance into this property on Cannon Hill Drive needs to be modified, so vehicles can get in and out without having to go in the wrong lane.
yeah.
Because as you say, it may only be for 1 hour during the day, but during that hour, it can be
Right.
absolute misery. And you're right, if that backs out onto 17M, where cars are doing 50, 60 miles an hour, that could be catastrophic.
And looking at the turning analysis, it looks like it wouldn't take more than 2 trucks to be out on the road.
You're right.
2 trucks and we're queuing up there to be out on the road to go forward until this traffic moves out.
Which if, once again, going back to the westbound dedicated turning lane coming off of 17M, if you, and take away that berm and you put in a dedicated lane, well, now you've got 2 trucks on Cannon, but now you've got 2 trucks out on 17M. You're giving yourself some extra
Yeah.
room. But that, according to, at the last planning board meeting, the applicant said that the state gave no timetable as to when that was going to be done, if/ever. And then there was talk about the 17M Flex giving money to the,
So that total thing, right, and like RDM, I think
contribution.
gave $90,000 or whatever for
Right.
their share of it.
So they got to make a share contribution, which doesn't pay for the whole project, but if everybody along 17M kicks in something, it doesn't fall on the town.
Yeah.
Fine.
And
Again,
it doesn't fall on the state,
it
right?
doesn't fall on the state.
Yeah.
But if the state's wait, look, that turn's gonna be hundreds of thousands of dollars minimum, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think I think the total cost of the project, that we were told for RDM, was almost $500,000.
yeah, and they're kicking in 90,000.
Yep.
So, okay. So my comment on this was, I have grave concerns about the turning radiuses and allowing the building to go forward without the turning lanes being in place. I understand it's not within the, you know, it's the state's, the state is the one that's slowing it down. I'm here to look out for the residents, I'm looking out for our comfort, our convenience, our safety.
But we also can look at what's happening on Cannon Hill Drive, which is our responsibility and our decision.
Yes,
And so making that turn into this building is very possible.
and I would agree with you, I think it's a matter of taking out, what is that, 50, 100 feet, whatever it is.
Whatever it takes to
Make-
make that.
And I understand this part, you know, you wanna beautify, you wanna have trees and all that other stuff, but if you're trying to get a tractor trailer in there, you don't want to be dragging the tires up over curbs, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So, you push this thing back so at least they can make that
And
curve.
if you wanna see any example of that, you can go to Sobeski on 17A, at that traffic light, and you can see where the trucks always go over that curb.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
okay, so can you make them give a certain amount of acre width in that area, so that if and when the state does decide to put that in there? Because, I mean, once this is approved, the state, the state
I-
could come and condemn it, or?
They could try eminent domain kind of thing, I guess. But it would seem to me it might be the time to approach this now, and rather than asking for money, ask for property.
Are you talking about the eastbound lane, trying to make that
Yeah.
turning lane? Yeah, no, and from what I understood, the applicant was agreeable to
I
that.
think so.
It wasn't them, it's the state, they can't change 17M. And so they're saying, look, we can't change it, and I feel for the applicant, I do, but that's not my problem. My problem is the safety and welfare of the people of Goshen. So,
Well, the other thing that would happen is the berm would have to move a little bit there.
yes, you would have to do away with probably, which, okay, now the building becomes more visible because we granted the setback variance from the road, which I understood was changed after the applicant bought the property, but that's,
But I think also, we're more concerned about safety than we are about aesthetics.
oh, yeah, absolutely. So that was my concern, was the turning, I would like to see the turning lanes done before, approval is given.
Anything else, John?
No,
All right, 17 with that. You're here for
IWS.
IWS, okay? Then you're gonna wait a little bit. Gotham Properties, Aurora. Okay, they are doing a number of things, but the biggest thing they're doing, and we have 2 projects on this at one time. So they have 4 parcels right now. Okay, I have it nicely color coded here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what they're proposing is they're gonna do lot line changes and make this instead 3 parcels.
Right, is this Gotham? Or
Gotham, this is Aurora.
Formerly known as,
Right.
right, they changed ownership, so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's, it is Gotham, but we would know it as Aurora from the past.
But now we're calling it Gotham.
Okay.
And so they talked in depth about, the applicant came to the planning board. They have to do this, Neil, for, tax reasons, is that what?
No, they don't have, they're nothing to do with tax reasons, they want to sell the property.
So this made it more sellable.
Sure, everybody, the people who want to buy this or may want to buy it, don't want to buy this whole thing, or any other parts the way it laid out. This basically, on the existing, and help me out here, John, thinking there's just existing, this brownish color, it's basically black dirt. I know up here it is, back here, I think not so, no, I'm sorry, back here, not so much maybe, but this is black dirt right here, up front.
Yeah.
So then I think the back is all upland here, that's the old landing strip.
Yeah.
So I think this is upland soils up here, and then it drops over in the back to go into the black dirt out down. And then this is just a front parcel up front that is usable, also upland soils. So what they're doing is they're making one upland parcel that's gonna be up front on a road, having road frontage, and then they're gonna have the black dirt area,
Yeah.
and then they'll have the rest of the parcel. The rest of the blue parcel is where the existing, no, this is where the existing project is right now. This is where
The worms.
the worms in that, yeah. I understand the possibility that they're gonna sell to somebody who still wants to stay in the worm,
Yes.
back one and everything else.
Is this, but there are 2 different things going on here. One, they want to make this into 3 parcels. The other thing is, they want to put a building on the property, on one of the properties. That's a separate.
That's not being done at all at this point. The next conversation is T-Mobile, and we're gonna have that.
Got that.
Okay, but as of right now, there's no discussion of anybody wanting to add any buildings right now.
So the other thing was the right-of-way road.
Yep.
So that the Brown properties can be accessed by that road.
The Brown parcel will access through that.
And so that is a,
A 288 variance.
okay?
Right, so
So the
288 just means that you get a variance that you are now allowed to build a property that doesn't have direct access to a municipal road.
So my question here, and I'm sorry that I don't know this, but that blue parcel with the blue road.
Yep.
Who becomes responsible to maintain the blue road?
Lacking a maintenance easement, it becomes the blue property.
And so if emergency services need access to a building in the brown or the green.
Yep.
The road needs to be maintained.
Yes.
If it's not maintained,
It's the responsibility of the blue property.
and so Frank goes and he sees that the road is not being maintained.
And then winter time, what's gonna happen is probably it.
And so what is the town's recourse, do we know?
Sure, it's become a building code violation probably because you don't have adequate access to the buildings and must have access for fire.
And so, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if the owner of the blue property just is unavailable, unreachable, or just says, I'm not going to fix the road.
Yep.
Does the town now come in with its graders and grade the road to make sure that it's passable for emergency service vehicles, and then build the property?
So that may be a question of whether we can, and whether it would make sense for the town to have the ability or the right to do it, but not the responsibility. Whereas we do that with stormwater, where we say, look, we have the right to go on the property in the future to take care of the stormwater,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have the responsibility. In other words, if it doesn't get done, it's not our fault.
Mhm.
So I don't know whether we can do something like that for this road.
Do we consider this a private road then?
It is a private
Okay,
road.
and that's where I fall short, I don't know enough about private roads, but my concern for the people of Goshen is that whoever buys this property or the Brown property, Green property, that if they're gonna put a building, any kind of structure on there, and emergency services need to access, they need to have a road that's passable.
Mhm.
And so that is, those are my comments to the planning board, is to put it in writing that if nobody takes care of it, the town can fix it and lien the property to, you know, make the repairs.
Well, certainly there should probably be a deed restriction or whatever, or a note on the deed that you are responsible for it, or who is responsible for it.
Okay.
Because I think that this road also gives access to a lot of the farmers in the back dirt, isn't it?
Some of
They
it,
go right over the top, and the backside of it's a nasty looking road, but,
Yeah.
Does that eventually make its way to Indiana?
eventually makes its way all the way out to, along the river there, doesn't it? Off of Celery, I think you can make it to Celery Avenue.
No, I mean, but none of those are passable by emergency service vehicles. I've been on them in four-wheel drive and they're
Yeah, no,
barely passable.
I agree.
But
So the last plane, now if somebody got injured out in the black dirt, you're in trouble getting out there.
stat flight, right? You're
I mean,
bringing a
yeah.
helicopter in.
Uh,
And that's a real possibility, that, you know,
Mhm.
farming's a dangerous
Yeah,
occupation. They're out there with machinery, et cetera.
otherwise, the road up to the old landing strip and the existing two buildings at Aurora, I think both of those are adequate. They were pretty good before.
yeah, as I recall.
Yeah, I mean,
Years ago.
I was on them when I went to Aurora,
Mhm.
and they were okay. All right,
Okay.
anything else?
So is there any kind of, problem? I mean, as far as zoning or setbacks? or
I think there's no setbacks being requested to be different. There's no setbacks being discussed because there's no discussion of,
It's gonna be there.
what's gonna be there. So that's not been an issue. All we're doing is making up the lots. In the future, it might be an issue. But I don't know. All right, so if that's all, I want to jump right into 17, what's it called? T-Mobile Northeast LLC. There is an existing cell tower on this property, and this, the T-Mobile wants to add a wireless, an initial co-location on it.
Does that say they just wanna put more antennas on the same pole?
I think so. I think that they are not asking to go higher.
That was my next question. So long as they're not asking to go higher,
Do we know exactly where this is? Is this on their property? Because it looks like from the map, right,
I was told,
right in the corner something.
Somebody told me
it's in the blue.
I think it is. It was supposed to be, it was put up there right down from the existing hangar. And I assumed, and I may not have been right assuming it when I was inspecting it.
Did they put it on the right parcel?
I thought so.
Because one map there looked like it was right in the corner.
And I think you're right. Somebody raised that issue as to whether it's even on the correct parcel. And I don't know that that's been resolved adequately.
That should kind of
Yes, it should be.
protect everybody. I mean,
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is the
Yeah.
right, this is Aurora Innovations, right? It comes around, this is the strip. And that tower
Yeah.
and that building are,
Roughly right here somewhere.
I mean, it's right on, I'd say it's right on the edge,
Yeah.
but without,
And we were told at the time that that tower was too close to this property line right here. It was gonna be close to the Brown.
yeah.
And so consequently, that tower had to be built so that it would snap in the middle.
Oh, so it wouldn't fall?
So it wouldn't fall onto neighboring property.
wow, like something I never would have thought of.
We did it was designed to do that. It was supposed to do that. Hopefully it never has to do that. But based on that, it was supposed to be on this blue parcel, I believe. And just down from the,
I mean, if you were to look at Zillow, and Zillow lays out the lot lines, but these aren't exact.
Yeah.
But that would be,
that's close to being correct.
yeah. It's close, it's,
Yeah.
like you would need a surveyor to go out and actually get a real answer for that one, it's so close. But if that's the case, then the owner of this property, they're the ones that would really care.
Right.
Because that means they're on their property.
That's Urbanski.
That's Urbanski, yeah. And
Yeah.
he's the one that's putting up salt, not his,
The solar,
yeah,
they're up already.
they're up already.
They're massive, yeah.
They on his
No,
house?
they're on that, the solar that he has, it's up, I don't think it's up, the other one's up yet. But the one that he has is over on this one. He has a massive amount of solar right on this.
That's on his, not the home
The other
farm.
one, yeah.
The farm, yeah. This
Yeah,
other
He's
one,
got solar over here.
yeah.
Which, wait a minute, where am I in a road?
Here's, Gillespie Highway.
Okay, so on the other side of the road.
The other side of
Yes,
the
that
road.
I've seen that huge
Yeah.
Yeah,
field.
now, there was supposed to be one
Yeah.
going up, here. There was another one being put up by here on Urbanski. Did that other one that walked yet, do you know?
I'm sorry.
The other solar down on Urbanski. They had one on one side of the road, one on the other side of the road. Did they do the one on the other side of the road?
I believe it's being worked on, I'm not
Okay,
sure.
yeah. I haven't
I
seen it.
have so much going on right now.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know, that's supposed to be there. But-
Okay,
Okay, but otherwise that is Urbanski there.
right there.
Or at least formerly was Urbanski, if that cell tower is not on. So I think that the question for T-Mobile Northeast is,
Exactly.
let's have a confirmation that it's on which property.
Yeah,
Uh,
Again, Neil, they're not higher, just adding to the pole.
Yeah, well, I don't know, we don't have this stuff on that here. I think they are just doing that. We used to have a great consultant that nobody ever went higher. People didn't like him because he cost a lot, but he almost always got them to the point where they just said, no, we don't wanna go higher. And basically the criteria for going higher is that if you go, and generally it has to be separated by 10 feet, so if you go 10 feet lower, can you meet the needs that you're trying to cover? And they always had to document that, and there almost never was a need to go 10 feet higher.
Well, that's what I had.
Yeah.
The road wants to make sure that we can maintain it, that it gets maintained.
Yep. So whatever has to happen to protect that, to make that clear as to who has that responsibility.
And
Yeah.
then so far as the cell tower, so long as it's not going higher.
yeah.
If it's going higher with the documentation that it needs to go higher,
You think the person that's buying this or in the future, or the other one, way in the back there, you know, the blue parcel, he'd want to have that pretty well, he and his attorney want to have that pretty well spelled out, what kind of liability, responsibilities
right.
they have to
Yeah.
have over that road, I mean.
yep, especially, and I wouldn't want that responsibility, but, you're responsible for every farmer that's going across it, possibly. And I'm
Yeah.
assuming that farmers really have some deeded right to do that.
Yeah,
You believe that as much as I do.
well,
I mean, yes, that's what hopefully is true, but we're not sure.
he could be way back at some deed,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
50, 100 years ago,
Yeah.
but they measured by chains and whatever, so
Yeah.
many feet. Now you can't get a truck that's less than so many
Right.
feet across, yeah.
Yep.
So they,
So once you go past the landing strip,
Yeah.
that road drops down
oh,
terrible.
yeah.
With all the gullies and everything else in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yep. All right, so now we're on to IWS, or the DEIS. You want
544 pages.
544
Yeah,
pages.
I'm-
So,
Only the first 30-something, the rest of it was maps and stuff.
okay,
But I did read it.
okay. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I can.
No, you can. Let's hear yours and then we can add ours.
Okay. I'm really,
You want to identify yourself? Just,
I'm Susan
thank you.
Cleaver, resident of the town of Goshen, and,
Do you want to come and sit up here and?
You're
stretch
welcome
your
to
stuff
sit up here with
Yeah,
us. We don't
spread
care.
Papers around if you like.
In fact, we generally would rather you do.
Yeah, really.
it might make it easier for us.
Whoa.
Man's giving you a chip. Want to come down?
Thank you. Why they bury your chin?
So he's probably gonna move the camera so you have people to see it.
They don't have
Well, he's gonna want, he gets paid for the number of people.
Make sure I get him a better turnout next time then.
And we don't just want talking heads on this, so.
to. Okay, so,
from what I understand is IWS has to have a special permit. Whether the planning board has given it to them or not is, I think they have, I don't know. And I'm not going through all the minutes to watch. But it does say no special permit should be granted for any property on which there exists a violation of this chapter, including violation of any condition of a previous municipal approval.
Right, so where's that?
That is in section 9773.
97?
Required findings for a special permit.
9773, and there's no B or A or anything
I
else?
might not have written it down, I don't know.
9773, you think?
Yes, and I did send a letter to the planning board regarding this, saying I don't know how they can give them a special permit, so. I don't know if they did or they didn't, it kind of looks like they might have.
What did they do? They did approve after, they did give them an approval for,
Site plan.
a site plan.
With conditions, or
Yes.
a condition.
A conditional site plan
maybe.
would make sense.
But I think that maybe from what I was reading, and I could be wrong, that the special permit was thrown in there with
No, I think we're still working on the special permit, right, the 80B?
No, that's different, that's a law.
Okay.
However, I'm not sure whether or not this required, depending on what the use went through as originally, I'm not sure that IWS was a use that was required to have a special permit from the planning board.
Well, the applicant did send you a copy of their previous special permit that was written by John Capella when I was on the planning board. I think, John, you were on the planning board too, because it was required that they have a special permit. Now, maybe the new attorney, Kelly, might have done different, but from what I read, they gave you a copy of John Capella's in your stuff, and it is required. The question is, has it already been given or not in my book? And I don't think they can give it, and I'm gonna give you the reasons.
Okay, let me just go back a second. The section you mentioned was 9773, the first paragraph. Is where it's saying. I am telling you, I'm just looking it up now, and that's where that comment is that you have there.
Oh,
Okay, so it's 9773, and it comes before the paragraph A or subsection A.
Yeah,
So it's all in there.
It's in there. So part of the reason, the first reason why I don't feel they could have a special permit is one, it appears they have expanded onto Altry landfill property. As I recall, we put in a grate, so if they park trucks, the leachate would run into the grate and into the tank and blah, blah, blah. They are now on dirt.
Okay.
Okay, that's number one. I did not see where there is a lease on that property. I did not see where they bought that property. There used to be a fence across the back because there used to be a gate and there was a problem with Northern Recycling driving trucks through and possibly.
Northern, not IWS.
No, not
Prior to
IWS.
Okay.
This was on their last approval. There was a solid fence from what I remember on the back part of that property, just stop any of that.
And that was part of the prior approval.
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like
This-
that fence is possibly gone, and, so I don't know how they could get a special permit or an ADB permit when they don't have a copy of a lease or anything for the property that they have expanded.
Okay. I need to stop here at this point, except for making some of that case for the special permit. This board tonight is.
I know.
You're ahead of us.
I know.
Okay.
I'm saying why they can't have a special permit and
Okay.
problems here, because it does affect this board, and if anybody gives them a permit when they're off their property, I think it's wrong, personally.
Okay.
That's just me. So anyway, then the third reason why I don't feel that they could have a special permit is when I was on the board, and John, you were on the board back then, part of the approval, and it's in the John Capella's, the last approval when they were fixing things up, was that they cannot park any trailers, tractor trailers or trailers with garbage in them. They had to be covered. I don't know.
On
if
this
you remember
property
that.
or across the street?
This is on this property. I probably have the document in here somewhere, but I really don't feel like looking at it. They can look it up. It's in the approval, a condition of them having the last site plan approval. So here's a picture, a recent picture, of, I think it's 3 trucks.
This is, would you getting this online now, or you had this from before?
No, a friend gave it to me. So
Okay.
I'm gonna show it to you. This is, a photograph, an aerial photograph. It's about 6:30 in the morning on a Monday morning, and either Sunday or Monday, I think it's Monday. Anyway, as you can see in the back, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 tractor trailer, I don't know what you call them, boxes, one's hooked up. And as you can see, 3 of them do not have covers on them.
These are the,
I forgot.
low boys.
That's what they call them.
The trailer's called a low boy, and
That
these
one
are-
has a cover, but these ones do not have a cover.
So I'm not even sure, so do they just dump the garbage straight into this and then it gets tarped? I don't know
Right.
how that works.
That's how, yeah.
Okay, so these are uncovered, obviously. And you're saying that they have to be covered
Yes.
by,
But that's part of their, I probably should look for that.
It's part of their agreement.
It was
but-
part of
but-
their approval. It was a condition of their approval.
However,
so,
okay.
so that would be a violation of the condition, which would be enforced by whom?
It would be enforced by the code enforcement office.
Can you see, John? And if you look here, I can go like, well,
Right, so
anyway.
this is Hartley,
Yeah,
this is the current facility.
yep, and there's the
Get
other
it so he
building.
can see, get it so he can see,
A-
please.
And, whoops,
So those trucks in the back, those low boys are ready to go, but they're uncovered.
yeah,
you
I
can-
think I believe they sat there over the weekend.
And this is so, and
So,
this is what
and
time of
here-
the day?
This is at 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, so you
And if
think,
you
you think that
look-
means it was before they opened up?
Yes. And if you look, you can kind of see that these trucks, here's the break of where the dirt goes back.
Mm.
Okay, so here, the other thing that is a problem on here is there is, a setback for the back part of the property. And somewhere on here, I do have that written down.
As you're looking at that, I mean, these trucks appear to be directly on the property unless IWS goes into the woods.
No, IWS used to go to there.
Oh, so if this is the IWS property, they're clearly not on their property.
Yeah, and
anymore.
it did
That's
come
what-
up at the planning board that they had expanded onto somebody else's, I believe is what the word they use. Property.
I'm sorry, did you say they told the planning board that?
It was brought up in a planning board meeting, Neil might remember.
You,
more clearly.
I don't think the applicant was saying they did that.
I don't know that the applicant was, but I remember being at a meeting with
Yes, I
Brazil.
think it was stated, that somebody stated that it's, you know, they were going
And they were
back there.
gonna lease
And I
the
think that-
property and then they
And I think
turned
that
it down.
the applicant, I think that the agreement, the resolution from the planning board was that they will give them the ability to continue doing, but they were not giving them permission to go ahead onto somebody else's property. I
Okay,
think that's what the resolution reads. And so the resolution, I think, was not ignoring it entirely, but they're saying, look, we're not blessing any movement on the other property.
okay. Well, see,
You remember
this,
any of this, Grace?
I'm sorry.
Good.
I can't really hear.
Okay. On the resolution for IWS
Mhm.
from the planning board,
Mhm.
I thought there was a comment there that they were giving them the approval to, or their site plan and all that, but they were not giving them a site plan that allowed them to move on to another property.
I don't know, I can try to research it for you.
I don't remember any of talking about going onto the, and I've been told planning board meetings,
Hmm.
and I don't remember ever talking about expanding onto another property. That would have
Yeah.
hurt my ears.
I'm
right
gonna
off.
say it was
I thought they were saying on the
23.
property that they were.
Yeah, I think they have to stay on the property. I think that's all the planning board was telling them they could do is stay on the property. I'm not saying that you're incorrect, I'm saying that, however, if there was, I think what you're saying is that if there was an approval in the past,
I don't have any knowledge of them going to.
yeah, I agree. I think that
They
so I think
were-
if there's a requirement in the past site plan, that there be a fence there.
I don't
And
know
this-
if it was, I think,
Bless you.
I don't know if there was a requirement that the fence be there, but there was a fence there, because there were so many problems with medical.
Sure, in
waste
the
and
past when
everything
the-
going straight through in the
Right.
back,
When the outdoor landfill was operational,
yes.
this used to be the second entrance in, that would avoid the
And
scales.
I'm pretty sure the fence was there. But either way, okay, somebody should really have a survey of where that back property boundary is. I mean, that just makes common sense to me, and put the fence on your boundary,
And,
given the problems of the past. But anyway, let's move on to the
Right,
next
Well,
one.
that's important, require a survey,
I don't see anything wrong with
Oh,
asking.
no,
for
of
a
course
survey.
not, I mean,
But there's another reason for the survey. There is, a regulation, my notes, I was rushed this afternoon. There is a setback on your back property line. And it kinda looks to me like if that is a property line where the blacktop used to be, that building is in their setback.
the building is in the setback?
Kinda looks like it.
I
If the
thought
setback,
I thought those were all trucks back there.
if their property line is on the blacktop, that building looks like it's within 50 feet.
Well,
do you think that this is a fence? Because what I'm seeing is this growth on that line, looks like maybe like vines and stuff.
There could be a fence back
Is
there.
that- 'cause of that-
I didn't go back there.
well, I can tell you that I'm looking at the soils map that is provided in the DEIS in figures in the first tab that shows their claim and what the property line is. And the trucks are
They're way
totally
off.
outside the property line.
Yeah,
Well, I know there was a discussion at that meeting, originally Priscilla's not here, because they had approached, Milo's son about possibly leasing the back part. And they were gonna do it, and then it fell apart.
Okay, well, according to, we can jump over everything that you just said and just say that on this soils map, which is figure number 2 in the figures of the DEIS, clearly show that those trucks are 100% out of the property line.
I'm embarrassed to say I've looked at that map, I can't tell you how many times, and I never realized, why wouldn't,
But the other problem besides the property, if the property line is where I think it is your building does not meet the setback.
what?
I'm not sure that, I'm not sure you're correct on that one.
Any idea what the setback would be, how many feet?
I think it's either 50 or 75.
I'm looking at that and I'm guessing it's 50.
Yeah, I am too, looking at this down here and looking at that. I think it's a good 50, and maybe if that's shadows, that's a little bit further than that. But I think that the setback in the I zone is 50 feet, it's 75 feet if it's
75, yeah. maybe.
75 feet wide.
Ah, boy. Okay, I have industrial 2 spaces, oh, that's for spaces. I have 9734, like my notes are.
You know, going back to your point, those vehicles, if those trucks, they are on dirt, and I was going over the soil, survey today, that's some tough dirt. Some of it is B, some is C.
Yeah.
None of it is A back there, so it's, you're running that stuff right off the ground. Not that putting it into the ground was any better, but.
No, but the
these-
question is, if you're a neighbor, do you want it running off the ground?
No, I don't think you do. And the neighbor in question here would be, I guess,
One's out toward the other one, the other direction would be.
well, we go this way, right? So that's gonna be the Amy's property.
Yes.
And Amy's already got a violation, not a violation, IWS from discharging contaminated water onto their property. And the EPA tested it, they have a consent order.
So this was
In the I zone, it's 75 feet back.
75?
It might be 70, in all honesty, this might be 75. We just can't tell from here.
Yeah, okay,
But maybe somebody should,
Sure, but the thing that is very, very obvious is the fact that according to their submission, those trucks are entirely 100% off their property.
And I just don't see how if somebody can give a special permit and also give an ERB permit
Well,
for stuff, and they're also over on their waste from what they were approved of, which is like
So-
number 5. So how many violations are you gonna have before somebody says, whoa, you're gonna have to take care of this, before we entertain any of it, that's all.
Okay,
Requiring a survey
sure. I
settles
think,
a lot of that.
again, I think that's a site plan thing and a town board issue. It's not an issue for completeness for tonight.
Well, it is kind of. How
Nice
many-
try, but I'm
Yeah.
not gonna buy that. I'm not gonna buy that it has to, however, it's very good, I think it's very good statements. I think it's very much a concern. I think it should be a concern. I think that, those questions should be raised to the applicant. And perhaps I'm not sure, I'm not sure that the planning board needed to give a special permit, depending on what this use was called.
Well, it's got it down,
I understand
in
that
all
it
your
says that,
stuff, that it says they have to have a special.
they did get it. And however, I don't know what that, if I look at the use map, or the use table, and I don't know what they call this use to fit in there.
Well, John Capella's thing is, I think, in all your documents, and
Yes,
I don't know,
You know,
I think he's a very good attorney.
I think, and again, looking at that picture, it looks to me as though, and without seeing it, I can't be sure, but it looks to me as though there is a fence there and it has growth on it, as you would have. However, does that fence delineate the actual property boundary, or that could have been one of those fugazi things where, hey, you know, after so many years, hey, put a fence back there and you're on the other guy's property. So I think that a full survey, the town should know just
Yes.
how many square feet
I
that we're
think,
talking
I think they
about.
have to. And I think that,
And we can request that of the,
I think certainly it should be in our comments, though I don't think it's comments about completeness. I think it's a concern. I think it's also a concern whether or not the planning board, if the planning board had to issue a special permit, then it sounds as though the planning board was incorrect to have done that. I would say that,
based on
based on
what we just
these,
saw.
right, based on the submission of the applicant. So,
Well, the reason.
however, I'm still not convinced that
The
they
reason
had
why
to do
I
that.
believe it was done was because I sent the planning board a letter like way back when.
That doesn't
Bring-
mean,
Well,
you could have told them that and they could have forgotten it or whatever. If they issued it incorrectly, and they may have, based on not catching this, they may have, if that is in fact. However, I still am not convinced, according to the use table, that they had to issue a special permit. I think the special permit is a special permit from the town for the ADB.
Well, the one with John,
I know it's, and I have to look at it again.
it was September 2006.
Okay, so John Capella's memo of September 2006 indicates that,
It's got this special permit,
indicates that this planning board gave it a special permit.
I believe so.
Back to the trucks, the low boys being uncovered, they look pretty full to me, and I can't see any reason that you would fill the container and then say, I'll get to cover it later. Why wouldn't you just, because you're going to hook up and pull out. You're not going down the highway with that thing open, stuff will be flying out the entire way.
And certainly the reason why, years ago, they had the park over this grate was so that if rain got into there and it was running out the back of the truck, it would drop down and be collected.
And that's
Instead of
where
running
the
off.
pipe from that was so it contaminated, which is an awful big coincidence. Contaminated Amy's.
See, and this is, I'm sorry, this is one of those things where our buildings department is just, are we really equipped to be watching this stuff all the time? I mean, if not for a picture, I never would have known. I can't see that from the ground.
Yep.
And to actually have somebody dedicated to a site like this, and this is an important site. Look, I understand it's a necessary evil, but you could do a lot of damage to the water.
Well, the other thing they might wanna consider, I mean, just for mitigation, is say, all right, if you're gonna park four trailers there, put a roof over it. I mean, there's stuff you can do that would stop it from rain getting.
From getting in there, okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of this expansion they wanna do. They're talking about this, a new building that they're gonna park vehicles in, that
They
will be
had that
covered.
in this one, they said that in the last one too. They were-
All right. So, I very much appreciate your help.
Yes.
as a
All do.
lawyer.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Anyway,
However, I think most of this, you're gonna have to,
I'm
Present
gonna
what-
write a letter
you're gonna have to
the
present this once
town.
again when it goes to the town.
I just.
And I don't think,
better.
I think that, from what I heard, the town board is not going to act on this tomorrow night until they have received it, and they will possibly act on this in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Okay, and I don't know, I suspect they're gonna have their consultants respond. I have heard, it was said to me that they're probably gonna say that the DEIS is incomplete,
Okay,
but I don't know.
well, hopefully.
I'm not sure they've gone to that point.
Warrants here.
Oh,
Anyway,
Thank you
thank
again.
you, and thanks for your
Great
time,
information.
guys.
Thank you.
I'm gonna book it, yeah. See ya.
Have a great night.
thank you very much, Ms. Cleaver.
Funny.
All right.
So we were talking about completeness. You
Right.
said not so much,
Not active, so the way complete, and I think Kelly was gonna try to get me a letter, but, didn't get it to me. But I think the way it reads is that this completeness means that they tried to address everything that was listed in this secret document, the scoping document. So, yeah, there is a scoping document in Appendix A, right at the end of it, and it's about, 11, 12 pages. So there's about 13 pages. There's 13 pages of a scoping document. And so everything that's listed in there, a scoping document is kind of a table of contents. And so that everything listed in there needs to be addressed in the scope, in the DEIS. And so if they say, if the thing was about traffic, it's possible they could get it would be considered complete if they said, we've considered traffic and there are no issues with traffic. That might be considered complete.
Even if.
well,
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that, because I did make some highlights of the first 30 pages where the synopsis, which I thought was very good. But for just what you just said, we know there's a problem, we'll look at it. That's not really an answer.
So but that's considered, that would be considered complete, but it was not, now, I think that would be considered complete. But so I think what really does happen is, yes, it's complete, but now we can go ahead and we can talk later on about, when there's gonna be another hearing on it then, about, hey, this is not a good enough answer though. Right,
So
so
completeness means that
they
it's going to
attempted
be
to, they attempted to answer,
for the public,
to
right?
address it, so that, but it doesn't mean that it's adequate, or that,
So in talking about completeness, this
Yeah.
is one thing that they had, it was page 3-3. The amount of excess soil is expected to be 200 tons of soil. Locations for the excess soil will be identified prior to construction, and arrangements will be made for transportation of the excess soil. We talked about this, and we talked about the possible contamination of the soil and how it's properly disposed of. So here they're saying, we know there's gonna be some stuff, and we're gonna get a guy to do a thing. That's very broad, and when I'm, in the end, should we not have, this is the company that's going to test the soil, this is the company that's gonna haul the soil, and this is how it will be disposed of safely. My concern is I don't want this garbage back on Goshen property contaminating the waterways
Yeah.
and our residents. That's my concern.
Yeah.
So, you know, getting a guy to do a thing, that's not exactly an answer, like just,
Right.
so you recognized I said something, but you didn't really give me anything. And there's, you know, quite a few parts where they do this in this. So, but if you're talking about just completeness, if you're just asking, did they recognize that we pointed it out? Yeah, they did. That was pretty easy to do, yeah, we heard you. So, I don't know, Neil, would you know, do we get more information than this before this gets approved?
before it gets to be called, wait, before we call it complete, or before we say it's acceptable?
Well, I guess that's they're part of the same question. Will we get this before it gets to the people, because the planning board has to approve it.
Planning board is not involved at all,
Who's approving this?
town board,
I'm sorry, town board's lead agency then.
yes.
So the town board, before the town board
Yeah.
approves this, do they get the details of where contaminated soil will, how it will be handled?
They certainly can, they can absolutely ask that
But you're saying to me, if the town board, those 5 members are happy with just, we're gonna get a guy to do a thing, that would be okay?
The degree of detail required by the town board is the town board's decision.
If that's the case, then as a resident and a member of the ERB, I would suggest that the town board require more specifics to the points raised. That's my comment.
Yeah, and I think that can be done, and I think that,
The
it may be,
planning
what
board
go ahead.
planning board will make that kind of recommendation?
The
then? 'Cause
planning
they-
board's not even gonna see this. It's not going to the planning board.
No?
No, this is not, I think this is not a planning board, am I correct?
I don't think it's, I'll check.
I don't think it is. I think this is not on the planning board's table at all.
So then the ball is in our court to make these.
The ball is in our court to help the town board, yes.
Well, I feel like that puts a lot more pressure on us because.
Yes, you're right.
You know,
Yeah.
the planning board sees these types of projects all the time, and you've got a couple of engineers in that room, and smart
Yes,
people.
yes.
And the town board is smart people, but
Okay, good. Thank you very
they're
much.
not, look,
Yeah.
let's face it, they don't see this kind of thing. So
Yes.
they don't know what they don't know to ask those questions. I don't even know the questions to ask, but hey, you know, as we said, we've talked about this project many times, this is a dirty business, it's a necessary evil. You're gonna have odors, you're gonna have pollution, it can't be helped, but it can be mitigated. And how it's going to be mitigated specifically is what I would like to know. Getting a guy to do a thing, not really an answer.
It is not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's not. So I'm virtually positive that the planning board is not going to look at this. This is not on the planning board at all. This is the town board's issue, and we as the ERB are responsible for assisting the planning board, the town board, in terms of the environmental review.
Well, then, I guess I need to look at this a whole lot deeper.
Okay,
But I also.
I think, but the thing is, essentially, here's what they're saying here. In the required elements for each section of chapter 3 of the DES is as follows. So they must address each of these things from page 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so from 9 to 13 is all the things that they were required to address in the rest of these pages.
Mhm.
Okay, so the question is, did they attempt to address all those in the rest of the pages? Attempt to address all of them? Did they provide geotechnical data reports prepared specifically for this project or property? Did they provide that? And then we can go to any of the potential impacts, mitigation measures. What are the existing conditions? DES shall identify any sites having significant archaeological data.
Right, that wasn't.
Right.
Some of those I can skip over pretty quick.
Sure.
Odors, existing conditions, we talked about this where they have this manually activated spray fogger units, which I
Yeah.
think is a big can of Lysol, which is great if it works, but the mitigation issues that with this, the new building addition, they're gonna construct an air exchange and it'll turn the air over 6 times every hour. They're also gonna use a system, atomized water to provide dust suppression and liquid odor neutralization project. Now, I don't know what that is,
Okay, and I think so, go ahead.
but is that safe for people to breathe?
And so I think the answer is that they tried to address the odor issue. They said this is what they're gonna do. Now the next question, but the next step really is that adequate or is that safe or anything else, or is that complete? And so we're not being asked if it's complete, we're being asked, I think, we're being asked whether it's been addressed, but not whether it's accurate or.
Oh, okay, if you
I
need to
think
know
so.
if it's been addressed, then yes, I saw my questions that we had, the stuff we said, that they absolutely were addressed insofar as they say, we got a guy that's gonna do a thing. They've recognized that there's a question. The answer is not very detailed, and I just don't know. If I was on the town board, I would want a more detailed
And I
explanation.
suspect the town board's going to require that.
Okay,
Okay, I don't know that to be true, and I think we get another shot at that along with them. And
Well,
assuming,
wait. This is not,
go ahead.
this has been referred to us by the town board.
By the
We're
town
supposed-
board, yes.
We're supposed to make make our recommendations.
And we're supposed to review this and say whether or not it's at this, there's enough information here, or that they addressed all the issues, enough that the public can read this, or should be able to read this, and
Yes.
then make
What is it?
adequate, right,
That's two different things.
okay, it's two different things,
Are
right?
they, when is the town board gonna, they're meeting Thursday? or
They're
what?
meeting tomorrow night, and I think they're gonna just briefly discuss this in terms of, we have it and we're going to, give our answers or whatever.
They're gonna rubber stamp this thing, say,
Whether,
We don't know.
the answer is I've been told no. Okay, I think they are going to try to do this, because this is, I think this is relatively recent, I think that it came in, Friday or so, but I mean, it's like the last minute thing. I personally have not had
no,
adequate
no.
time to go through this,
No.
to determine whether it's complete. Okay, I'm not prepared for that. And consequently, my question, if you two think you are, then we're okay.
So, for me personally, this is a 544-page document, which I did get the other day, and I have been going through it. The bulk of this is maps and graphs and stuff
And
like that,
numbers,
traffic
yeah,
accident stuff, which is
Yep.
all good information.
Yep.
But the first 40 pages is what I read, and that's where, it's summarized. And this is very good information. But once again, mitigation measures and talking about atomized chemicals doesn't say what the chemical's gonna be, doesn't say if it's,
Yeah.
if it's an injury to, if it's bad to inhale. I mean, look, nothing's good to inhale. It doesn't say if people are going to be, my understanding is there will be employees inside this building.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yes.
so far
Safe
as,
for them.
I'm concerned about health and well-being of any person, but especially a Goshen resident, that's going to be in this building. So, more information. Once again, if you're just asking me, did they acknowledge that we asked these questions? Yes, they did, but I'm not seeing full and complete answers.
Okay.
On the other hand, I'm not an engineer, and so, does our town engineer, or do we have an engineer that looks at this and says, this is adequate?
I think, yes, I think the town board's going to do that. One of the questions I would have certainly is which engineer, or what type of engineer needs to look at all this stuff.
Mhm.
Because obviously, the traffic part of it's gonna be a different person than some of the other stuff. And so I think when we get to the point of talking about some of the health issues, I would think that's not a normal, Sean Hoffman question.
Yeah, no, this is a very specialized, I mean, look, you gotta work at this place, you're getting tetanus shots every couple of months, you're getting
Sure.
TB
And
shots all the
and it's
time.
not just the guys who are working there all the time, it's also the guys who are coming with the trucks,
Yes,
who are making deliveries or pickups.
yes.
I think that they're also going to be exposed. There are a number of people who are gonna be exposed, and possibly, depending on what's on the tires, I don't think they have a tire bath before they leave.
They-
Mm.
So whatever's on the property is probably also coming off the property also
And that
on tires.
I did not see mentioned in this at all, and we talked at length about that. And as I said, some of this is just the business of the business, and it can't be helped.
Yeah.
But they do drag this material out onto Hartley Road, and our residents drive through it all the time. I'm one of them, and it stinks. If it
Okay.
just smells, it's not a problem. I just don't know what the chemicals are.
Okay, so I think, I'm not prepared to say that they have completed, answered all these questions or addressed all these questions.
I still think,
Go ahead, John.
initially, what Sue brought forth here is certainly interesting. I mean, if this is what they own, and there's a picture that shows those trucks not
Especially
on
when,
their property. I mean,
especially when they presented the picture. I mean,
Yeah,
it's one thing if I come up with a picture, it may or may not be right, but I'm assuming that they presented the correct picture.
yeah, and
Correct, there is.
that should really be,
And like I said, I'm embarrassed for myself that I've looked at that picture before. I saw the red box. I saw the trucks outside the red box. I was so focused on something else that I didn't see that that's
They're off the property.
not their property.
yeah.
Okay, so my question kind of is, if we are, I'm not prepared to say we're complete. So if we have to respond, and do we want to try to respond to this again next meeting in 1 month? Or do we want to try to have, are we prepared to possibly have an extra meeting? Because we may have to have an extra meeting if the town board is going to want to give their answer within 2 weeks of tomorrow.
No
we have to
meeting's
have-
not gonna.
We have to have another meeting before then.
Yeah,
I'm available for an additional meeting. And I need a little bit more time to, we need some more answers so far as surveys, et cetera. The town needs those answers.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is that possibly we can get Kelly to help us out a little bit more with what they mean by, is it adequate for completeness now, as opposed to accuracy, whatever. You know, what are we really supposed to be, what's the criteria right now?
And not having done this before with the town board as lead agency, I haven't, is the town board leaning on the ERB to
Yes.
answer those questions?
Yes, the town board, we have more experience than the planning board on doing this, but anyhow, we have more experience. And so yes, they can certainly look for that. I think they're also going and having at least one or two consultants look at it also.
Okay,
Well,
well,
So it's not totally on our back, but
then my comment is that while the applicant has acknowledged that we asked the questions, the answers given are not full and complete. Looking for more technical information as to how these things are going to be handled, such as
Yep.
odors, such as, what kind of chemicals they're gonna be using, that's all important.
Yep.
I do see that they did have quite an extensive, answer to the stormwater, the runoff management, collection tanks, double walled tanks, I thought that was all good. And you know what? If the entire report was like that, I'd be good. But I got a guy that's gonna do a thing, it's not an answer on some of these questions.
okay, so do we want to try to have another meeting, or we're gonna try to ask the town board, can we cover this again at our next regular meeting, which would be August 13th?
Either way is fine with me.
All right, I will ask the town board if we can give our
Yeah, see
answer
what
back on
their
the
schedule's
13th.
like, we'll go by what their schedule's.
13th, if we can't do it on the 13th, can we do it 2 weeks from now?
Okay, good.
I'm available, but you can also reach out to Little Carol,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I'll have to do that too. Okay, so 23rd is a possibility?
Yes.
Is that okay with you?
While she's looking that up, the turn Hartley onto 17M going westbound,
Yeah.
and they filled that in with,
Yeah, somebody filled it in.
so I was gonna ask you, do you know who the somebody is?
No, I don't know.
It looked like, if the town did it, it was wonderful that they did it. Unfortunately, it's already chewed up.
Yeah,
as
it's
it
a
was
temporary.
going. It's very temporary, and if they're going to continue to fill
Yeah.
it, fine, but what was there was dangerous. It's much
Yeah,
less
it's
dangerous
better,
now.
yes.
But,
I'm glad to see it was done that much. Okay, so, if we can't do it then we're gonna try for 2 weeks from now, and see what we can get,
okay.
okay?
Do we have access to a professional to ask some of these questions so far as chemicals used? Things like that?
Well, we're gonna suggest that, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna suggest that.
I guess what I'm asking is, do we have to get a professional and ask those questions so that we can report to the town board?
No,
Or do we tell
no,
the town board?
we have no, I don't think we can hire consultants.
Okay, but we can tell the town board,
Sure.
you need
Sure, we need somebody to.
a licensed,
Yeah, we would suggest a health scientist, whatever, I don't know. what to call it.
no, you're right.
Yeah, something along that line, somebody in the healthcare or health field or.
Health and
Health
science
safety,
engineer. Yes.
somebody OSHA oriented or something like that, there you go. We can suggest that, they get that, and for what reasons. So I think if we can, we're gonna look at completeness now for the next 2 weeks, and then we can really start looking at some of this information, because I don't think you're gonna give us more complete answers than what we got now. They're gonna give us answers that are missing.
And if the town board is okay with missing answers, then that's on them, but it's, we're doing everything we can to give them good work product,
Yeah,
then.
no, and
we've
I
done
think
our
we
job.
have, I think we have to give the best work product to us. I think they're gonna try to do their best, and as you said, they just don't do it very often.
Mhm.
This may be, probably no more than the second time in my 22 years here, so I got, that the town board is taking the lead agency.
Is any reason for that, do we know?
Sure, it's basically, they don't because they have less experience doing.
No, I get it, so I'm wondering why they took it on this.
Exactly.
I think,
yeah,
I think they did it on this because the planning board has no responsibility in this. The planning board has no decision-making on this ADB permit.
I see, okay.
All the decision-making on the ADB is from the town board, I think that's the way.
And we're an advisory board, but they're asking for our advice on
Right.
this issue.
Yes, and we are, our responsibility is to give advice to town boards, all town boards,
Yeah.
on seeker.
I think that this project in particular it has the potential to be, look, if we do it right, nobody will know it's there. But if we screw this up, it could be catastrophic, and I'd like to give good work products so that the people making decisions.
And the honest answer is this project, that property has been improved from when I first got here. I mean, when I first got here, I had people in my office on a regular basis, 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So it has improved, but it's can go further, I think.
All right.
Okay? Anything else on it?
I'm good.
What, next one, 23rd then, or?
We're talking about 23rd if we have to do it before the next meeting.
You would find out, you can ask
I'm
tomorrow.
gonna find out tomorrow night, yeah.
Good.
Okay?
There is no agenda posted yet, so.
Okay, and I'd like to thank Grace for putting out the agenda. I know we've been getting yelled at, probably by my wife, for not getting our agenda out 24 hours ahead of time. The state law, the open meeting law is that agendas are supposed to be out for the public 24 hours, at least 24 hours ahead. And I know that I don't do them in, as Grace would politely put it, in agenda form. I put the projects out and then this is much better, but thank you very much. And I do appreciate you being here again.
All righty.